Sunday's loss to the Cowboys was an opportunity that one player has been waiting for all season long. That man is Rasul Douglas, a cornerback drafted last year by the Philadelphia Eagles who has been left in the shadows while names like Dexter McDougal and Cravon LeBlanc have been signed off the street to fill a desperate need for the team. But now forced into the fray due to injury, what could Rasul Douglas do? The answer, at least on the surface, wasn't very much. Fans were left underwhelmed, there were missed tackles and errors all afternoon from the West Virginia product, but does a closer look at the tape show a slightly different story? That's what we're here to find out in today's episode of Eagles Film Room. Before we get into it though guys, don't forget, if you're new around here and you haven't seen our content before, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by Christmas. It would mean the world to us if you could just tap that red button, give this video a like and support what we do here at Philly Sports Network. One of the big concerns about Rasul Douglas coming out of college was that he didn't play a lot of press coverage due to what seemed like an ever-changing scheme at West Virginia. The Eagles played plenty of man and this was always going to cause a transition, and in his second year after some sporadic rookie experience, he's now been asked to start and match up in a tight press situation, cover one without any safety help over the top. And it was clear very early on that they wanted to test Rasul Douglas. So what they did was try to drag both the safety and Ronald Darby out of the equation by distracting them in man coverage with vertical routes, and that would leave either the out route that Avonte Maddox is guarding or Rasul Douglas's route wide open. Here's how that play ended up unfolding. It would be rookie Michael Gallup out of Colorado State that puts a filthy move on Rasul Douglas and shows him that physicality at the line, something the Eagles cornerbacks have lacked over the last couple of years, is very important to stopping these more elusive wideouts. Gallup is going to sell that outside route so well that it takes Douglas all of 2 steps to open his hips and start striding with the wide receiver. Gallup then plants his outside foot, shifts his body weight across, and that is just all too easy for Dak Prescott. That's a rhythmic pass, there was no disruption, and unfortunately it's a trial and tribulation that everyone should have to go through as a cornerback. We're going to take another look here at a Rasul Douglas play. Now this is lining up against Amari Cooper. Douglas just again a little bit hesitant. This should be a Cowboys touchdown. He gets too conservative, he's upright in his back pedal, and that may be the strangest part about this play, that you can see Douglas comes out vertical then dips back down. So he comes out ready to adjust and has to settle back down into that back pedal, and that may be because of his length or it may not be, but the fact is he couldn't open his hips for another step and Cooper blazed open. Here's another play of Michael Gallup who sells the outside yet again, and Douglas bites. He opens his hips early, and that again could have been a huge play. Luckily for the Eagles it wasn't, but Rasul Douglas went down at the line of scrimmage, could get physical, he proved it there. He can disrupt those passes. This is a great play for Rasul Douglas, who gets right up in the face of Gallup, I think clearly annoyed at this point, gets his hands on the receiver, just knocks that rhythm off a tiny little bit. The receiver has to work around. Douglas then bangs him the other way. That's a bang bang play for a corner. Great physicality. Dak is going nowhere in that situation. But then there were other instances like this play where he almost gets scared off the line and falls backwards, which is just bizarre to see. So we can see it's a quick double step and it almost happens too fast for the naked eye to see. But when we go back and watch this play a little bit more slowly, watch Rasul Douglas and the body movement. He's trying to keep his eyes in the backfield, watch for what Dak's doing at the line of scrimmage, but his eyes should be fully focused on the receiver that is directly ahead of him. So just keep your eyes closed on Rasul Douglas's upper body here. So he settles in, he's anticipating the receiver, maybe going to initiate a bit of contact, and look at that, just a few footsteps is all it takes, and those hips are so far back it's like Shakira doing a dance, and it's an easy pass once again. No contact needed, Dak can sling it in there, and Douglas has to almost push his body backwards to avoid any kind of contact instead of leaning into it and anticipating it first. On this play he does the opposite, sponges the contact, gets thrown about 10 yards back off the field, and he's lucky that Dak Prescott was flushed out of the pocket. But one area he did thrive in was inside the red zone, as all Eagles corners do. Defending Amari Cooper, he used all those ball hawking instincts he exhibited at West Virginia to his advantage. This play may not look too hot at face value, but let's take a closer look. Watch the way Douglas lifts his head and looks for the ball, ball, but uses his hands to feel his way down the route. He knows Cooper's on him, but it could be a back shoulder fade, it could be a throw into the back of the end zone. He uses his hands to feel his way down and leave him absolutely blanketed. In this zonal look, they're really trying to throw him off. He knows there's a safety over the top. He's got help inside, so all he needs to do is split those two receivers and close off that area of the field. He does it absolutely perfectly. Why does that matter? Because watch Dak Prescott's eyes. If you go back and watch this play a second time, the eyes of the quarterback are looking for one of those receivers to get open. Because in his eyes, Douglas is going to bite one way, but he doesn't. The pressure gets to Dak. He spends too long waiting for one of those routes to get open. That's a dead play, thanks largely in part to the positioning of the second-year cornerback. But in this sort of zonal look, this is where Douglas showed another interesting characteristic, which is ability to read and react to what's going on the field. This looks like it's press coverage. He's lined up very close to the line of scrimmage, and what you're going to see is, again, he's playing in zone, but he keeps his eyes in the backfield. That positioning, he is perfectly in the middle between those two receivers, and wherever Dak goes, Douglas is going to be. Fantastic positioning on that play. Another example of reading and reacting is what we see here. The Cowboys towards the 50. We're going to see a tight end come out from the line of scrimmage, almost hidden to begin with. Douglas uses his eyes to keep his eyes on Dak. He does that so well. I've said it throughout the video, but he really does a great job of keeping his head up on a swivel and looking for the ball first. However, like the rest of this game, his run defense wasn't quite as consistent as he'd like. He takes a really bad angle here when trying to tackle Ezekiel Elliott, who stormed through the trenches, and it does allow for a huge gain for the Cowboys running back. In fact, it takes him all the way down towards the red zone before Malcolm Jenkins punches it out of bounds. But when you take a look at this play, watch the way Douglas approaches the situation. It's a really bad look. He comes storming in out of nowhere. It's great anticipation, but he's just a step late. However, his run defense wasn't all bad. This was one of his best plays of the night, in fact. Malcolm Jenkins is coming down in run defense, but watch Rasul Douglas read this play, realise that the block ahead of him has been made, swoops round, and then finds Ezekiel Elliott. He snuffs him out with that ball-hawking nose that we referred to time and time again. You can go back and watch the safety video as well to see exactly what we're talking about. But he's always at the point of attack, and that's a great play by number 32 to at least show that he can wrap and tackle. He's not a bad tackler, he's just inconsistent. We see a great example again there. He can get his hands around the receiver, which is something that not a lot of corners like to do. Some prefer to just hit hard. We see Ronald Darby do that fairly often during his time in Philadelphia. Rasul Douglas is a wrap-up guy. The problem is he just takes the worst angles. For instance, here he just comes diving in at the legs, and because he's only got one arm on them, it's just never really going to go anywhere. Safe to say tackling isn't this man's strong suit, but in his second year of development, if he can somehow apply those mental traits of patience and anticipation to tackling, we could be looking at a very complete corner. But this is another example of man coverage, and it's another area where Douglas does seem to lack, and that's speed. He's not the fastest guy on the field, and again, a similar play to the one we examined earlier. This is designed to clear out the corner, which in the last case was Darby. This one is Douglas. The difference is that with no safety help, that's a shot to the end zone. Dak overthrows it, but the receiver breezed by, and this is yet another example of that one. So Douglas just anticipates it wrong, opens his hips the wrong way, the receiver gets by. If we're being brutally honest, this wasn't Rasul Douglas's best game. We've seen some great flashes during his rookie year, and even against the Falcons, this wasn't one of his highlights, but there were moments of promise. However, this is going to be an important step forward for him. And why does this game matter so much? He's in his second year. Ronald Darby may not be back with the team next year, and Jalen Mills will be entering his contract season, giving a huge window of opportunity to Douglas. What's really encouraging though is that there are clear signs of development. We know it's man coverage, we know it's the press, we know that it's the tackling that needs work, but these are all coachable. It's not like he's doing anything barbarically wrong or anything that is going to damage his team in the long run. It's a case of working on what he learned last year to really refine that skill set. We know he's got the potential. Can Jim Schwartz and Corey Unlin get the best out of him after neglecting him for an entire year? That's their coaching challenge. We will see Douglas rise to the occasion. Only time will tell. But thank you so much again, guys, for watching this video. It really does mean the world to me. If you are new, if you haven't listened to any of our podcasts, if you haven't been to phillysportsnetwork.com, please do. We have daily Philadelphia sports teams analysis from myself, from a team of around 20 writers every single day. We're trying to do this differently. We want to be the biggest site in Philadelphia, but we need your help to do that. So make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, show your support. You've had 2 film room videos this week. We've spoiled you a little bit, but from myself, Liam Jenkins, we'll see you next time for another episode of Eagles Film Room.